Long lines of migrants, some sleeping on the sidewalk. These may look like the recent images from outside the Roosevelt Hotel, but this is actually the scene every weekday morning outside New York City's immigration court. Hundreds of asylum seekers lining up for federal immigration appointments. And tonight, News 4's Gabi Acevedo uncovers mind-boggling stories about court dates set for 2 to 3 years in the future.
People have been waiting for years to get an immigration court appointment. Others have just arrived. Different cases, different scenarios. But what is true is that the backlog accumulates and the line continues to grow longer. It was 4:30 a.m. and the line was stretching for more than a block on a Wednesday morning outside of 26 Federal Plaza.
Venezolana.
When I sat down with 28-year-old Amy Villa, who made it to the U.S.-Mexico border in late June, one of her children sleeping on a cardboard box in the streets of Lower Manhattan as she waits in line overnight for an immigration appointment.
Se entrega y pasa el proceso de ICE.
Amy tells me she turned herself over to ICE, starting the process to seek asylum formally, a scenario that repeats itself with thousands of Venezuelans coming into town since last year.
We have friendly relations with certain countries in South America, and certainly not with Venezuela, and they're treated, sadly, in my opinion, with discrimination.
Michael Wilds is a former federal prosecutor who wrote a book called Safe Haven in America, Battle to Open the Golden Door. Wilds says that by federal statute, asylum officers are required to process requests in 45 days and take no more than 180 days for the applicant to face a judge. But that is not happening right now.
We know that the courts and the judges have the scholarship and the capacity to move it. There are just simply not enough judges.
Stats from Syracuse University showed that there is a backlog of more than 2 million cases in immigration courts across the nation. More than 350,000 of those cases are pending in the states of New York and New Jersey. Meanwhile, the Executive Office for Immigration Review says it's working on reducing the long lines for immigration court by increasing the number of judges by more than 200 since January 2021 and adding legal staff to support the judge corps. Back in Lower Manhattan, I spoke with 46-year-old Newsman Gomez, who was shocked to get a scheduled appointment more than 2 years from now in the state of Illinois. 2025 at 9 a.m.
A las 9 de la mañana.
But this says you have to go to Chicago. A similar deal for 26-year-old Miguel Alejandro Rojas, who crossed the Texas-Mexico border in early June and was quickly given an immigration court date in Newark. But for September 17th of 2026.
Unacceptable as far as I'm concerned.
The asylum-seeking process has been even more difficult for 28-year-old Morelvis Silva, a criminal justice graduate from Venezuela, who tells News 4 that she escaped to the U.S. in 2021 after being detained in her own country by the Nicolás Maduro regime, allegedly for her activism and political opposition back home. How many years has it been?
2 years.
It's just a long waiting game, and you don't really know when that wait is going to end.
Morelvis's lawyer, Jonathan Shaw, says that based on her background, she is the perfect example of someone who fits the mold to be granted asylum.
She has a lot of facts and a lot of details in her story that show that she is a person that should merit asylum.
However, at this point, Morelvis has not been given a formal immigration court date yet, as opposed to others who just requested an individual hearing.
It's a matter of compassion, politics, and certainty that if we don't fix it, it's going to get worse.
Reporting from Lower Manhattan, Gabi Acevedo, News 4 New York.